and because Nikon did not have the 600 f4 for the Z mount, he said, am I going to wait for 2 years?
Look, you're a bird photographer. A 600 f4 is really what you want. A 400 2.8 is great, but I mean, we're talking about 200 millimeter.
And therefore he shipped. Hi there, Nikon just silently launched the 600mm f4. Nikon has been on a launch spree for the last few weeks. They first started that with the firmware update of version 3 for the Z9, and then they updated the rest of the bunch of cameras with the minor firmware updates. So you've seen these firmware updates happen, and now they have launched the 600mm f4 quite silently. But it's a significant lens, the significant telephoto lens for wildlife and sports shooter, and this basically essentially completes the entire professional, high grade professional telephoto and super telephoto lens lineup for the Z series. And it has come after the launch of the Z9. Nikon took essentially a year to finish up the entire telephoto range of lens launches. Now it's done. So this is a significant step in that way, that Nikon now is a very complete ecosystem, for lots of options for anyone who wants a telephoto lens, whether you want 100 to 400 or 400 prime, whether you want 400 2.8 or now 600 f4 or an 800, right, which goes up to which has an aperture of 6.3. So it looks like a complete sort of lineup. Yes, the enthusiast level fixed aperture zoom, which is the 200 to 600, is yet to come. A lot of people are, I'm sure, are waiting for that. But I think that lens would come with something like a Z8 or a Z7 III, where talking about not the audience is different, right? The audience who's going to go for a 600 f4 or a 400 2.8 is different from the audience that will go for a sort of entry level 200 to 600 telephoto lens, right? So therefore I think that will come later, and this may be the last significant Nikon launch this year, because as per the rumors, this was it. Nikon is supposed to launch one more product, and then we heard from Nikon rumors that this is going to be a lens and a long lens. And now we see that Nikon have just launched the 600 f4. I'll talk about what it means for the entire lineup a little later, but let's look at the lens a bit more. This is a very interesting lens. This has got a built-in teleconverter, 1.4 teleconverter, which will take you to 840 mm. So when you use this lens, the 600 lens with the teleconverter, which will take you to 840, and then use for example, the 2.3x crop for video recording with the Z9, it is possible to shoot at a focal length of 1932 millimeters, right? And this is very interesting. Also relating to this, remember, this lens is also designed to minimize focus breathing. So all these lenses Nikon are very careful about ensuring that the focus breathing is minimum. This is actually 550 grams lighter than the earlier version, the knife mount version. This still weighs above 3 kilos, 3 kilos and 200 something grams, but it is definitely significant weight improvement there. Okay, and the other significant thing that I thought was interesting is the way they have designed the lens. The length of the lens is something they have kept in mind. So it's 437 long, which is something that would fit in most camera bags. So from a design perspective, from a carryability perspective, I thought that was a good thing done by Nikon, just to sort of remember that people need to carry the lens, not probably in a dedicated lens pouch, but in their normal camera bags. Of course, it's a VR lens, being a super telephoto lens, it's a VR lens, and it's got 5 stops of stabilization, along with any full frame Z camera where you have a stabilization on the sensor. But if you are using the Z9, by unlocking that power of the synchro VR the Z9 talked about, you'll get up to 5.5 stops of stabilization, which is always great, that extra stop. So the other interesting thing that Nikon mentioned in the rumor is that they looked at the 600 f4 and the 400 2.8 almost like a set. Okay, so therefore, the interoperability, the size taken, the shape, all of that, those are sort of similar in design. So that's very interesting. So the shell, outer shell, the size, and the not the size, but the overall the look, the presence of these two lenses are going to be very similar, so that when you're switching between two lenses, it allows you for smooth transition between the two lenses. Now, also, if I look at the MTF chart here, it looks like when someone is not using the built-in teleconverter, the lens is almost perfect. So it has also this very interesting characteristic is when you shoot close versus when you shoot uh, at a distance, both will have similar levels of sharpness and perfection in the image quality, which is an casual admittance of the fact that, typically when you close focus, there is a loss of contrast and resolution. And one interesting anecdote is that, remember Bayu Josh actually said that he shifted to Sony because he saw his wife using Sony and was a good camera, the A7 IV, and then he said that, I also the fact that he was a fan of a 600 mm f4, that's his favorite focal length and sort of favorite sort of lens, and because Nikon did not have the 600 f4 for the Z mount, he said, "Am I going to wait for 2 years?" And therefore, he shifted to Z9. What is amazing is that there are two things related to that. That when Bayu Josh shifted to the Sony A1 along with the Sony 600 mm f4, I personally know a lot of people ask, why should you wait for such a long time? Z9 took quite a while. Now that it is here, the lens lineup is not complete. Of course, it was getting complete, and now if you look at it, I think Nikon has outdone Canon in terms of getting the professional high-end super telephoto lens range out there. So yeah, it's not been even 5 to 6 months, and the 600 mm f4 is out. Could he have managed with a 400 f2.8, or even his older f mount 600 f4? I think yes, but this perception that you have to wait forever and you lose a lifetime of your worth of your time before Nikon launches the product important to you may not be true, because the other part that which is launched signifies to me that is that we are not probably going to get the 85 1.2, but it could lead to frustration for a lot of people, and a lot of people could say, "Oh, where's the Z8? Where's the Z7 2 3 and the Z6 3?" So, should we then all jump ships thinking that Nikon is not going to come up with these lenses pretty soon? I think Nikon is right now a bunch of very super active people who are also getting a lot more other people on board. The kind of launches you've seen in the last 1 year is tremendous. They filled up the entire super telephoto lineup with some of the best lenses ever out there, right? And with one of the best camera ever out there, the Z9. And then they have also launched the Z30, of course. They're continuing to produce the rest of the other lenses, other products. They've pushed out tremendous amount of firmware. Remember the firmware 2, the first major firmware for the Z9, that also happened, right? And then of course the recent set of firmwares. It's just that I think for the Z6 to Z7 to price bracket of consumers, for that segment, Nikon hasn't been able to do a lot. It's not that they're incapable or they're not planning to. I think it's just a matter of time. I, I think it's a good thing that Nikon focused on getting the telephoto lenses out, and now that they're all out, Nikon will then now concentrate on the 35-1.2, the 85-1.2, the 135 1.8, all these amazing portrait lenses. That's where Nikon is going to sort of focus on. Then I think Nikon is going to shift focus to the DX wide angle lenses and the smaller pancake lenses like the 26 or the I think 10 to 14 or 10 to 12 DX. So I think there is a distinct plan, and the plan cascades in a certain way, cascades down in a certain way. And therefore, I think that, if you're invested in Nikon and if you're already planning to, if you're on another system and you're planning to move into Nikon, I think it's a matter of a few more months. And I think we're going to see significant launches from Nikon and a powerful line of products. And I know that The next products are only going to improve on what we have seen on the Z9 and what we have seen in the rest of the lens design. Therefore, I would say that this, for the people who are not looking for a 600 f4, don't look at this as, oh, this year is gone now, I'm not going to get the product that I was looking to buy. I think use these months to save up, because what's coming is also significant. So use these months to save up, plan, research, understand what you actually would need, because I think pretty soon, early next year onwards, Nikon is going to launch a number of new products, all of which may be relevant to you if you're a Z6 to Z7 to users, if you're a portrait shooter broadly, if you're a vlogger with something like a Z30. I think those products are, are going to come out very, very soon. So with that, I'll take your leave today, and I'm going to see you very soon with another one.